What if I told you that you could learn any new skill, such as playing the piano or speaking a language such as Chinese, in just a few months? Chances are probably most of you would not believe me. I claim that it's possible and that everything that separates you from those 8 little secrets, everything that separates you from that goal are those 8 little secrets. On the other hand, you might not even need to, because I've heard that you guys are all polyglots. So why don't we do a little test? Si os hablo en español, me podéis decir hola. That was easy. Si vos falo en galego, mando-vos apertas, entendedes-me sí ou non? Peut-être que nous pouvons parler en français. Vous pouvez me dire bonjour. What language was that? That was French, all right. Forse vi posso parlare italiano e forse c'è qualcuno che mi possa dire ciao. Мне очень нравится русский язык. Я думаю, что русский язык очень хорошо, тоже очень трудно. Если ты хочешь говорить по-русски, пусть ты скажет «Привет». Very good. What language was that? Okay, don't say Dutch, you'll kill me. That was Russian, all right? Eu adoro português do Brasil, português de Portugal também. Talvez vocês podem falar, olá, tudo bom? Olá. Very good. Ich glaube, das Deutsch ist auch wirklich sehr gut. Vielleicht können Sie sagen, hallo. And the final language, my beautiful language that I love, so difficult. 我哥跟你们说中文，如果你们会说汉语，应该说你好。The whole auditorium, very good. Big round of applause. So, you guys might not even need this, but just in case, I claim that these are the 8 little secrets that will allow you to learn anything in very short time. Anytime I learn a new language, I apply all these secrets, these 8 secrets. The great thing is that I am not very special. I've learned to speak 9 languages or to play 7 instruments, not because I'm very special, but because I have applied these 8 principles. The great thing is that anybody can do it, and in fact, you'll be able to apply them today. So what's principle number 1? You have to prioritize. If you want to learn a lot, learn less. Learn less, but learn it a lot better. I'm going to share with you a principle. I call it the Gandhi face principle. It has completely revolutionized my learning, and I'm going to share it with you. I hope it stays with you forever. Let's pretend that we have a portrait of a historic figure. Everybody knows the Mahatma Gandhi. And let's pretend that we turn this portrait into a puzzle, and we could equate making this puzzle to learning a language. So let's pretend that we had a big blue sky, his face in the middle, big open field, and we had to make sure that an audience would know as fast as possible what our portrait was about. And we only had one condition, which was you can only add 1 piece of the puzzle every day. There would be 2 ways to do it. One would be to start from one of the corners. Big blue piece belongs to the sky. Another blue piece belongs to the sky. Another blue piece, another blue piece. Maybe months go by, maybe even a year, thousands of pieces, and yet you have no information about the portrait. That would be the least effective way to do it. What would be the most effective way? To start with a nose, make an upward spiral, and with just 15 pieces, we wouldn't know if the sky is blue or gray. We wouldn't know if it's alone or with other people, outdoors or indoors, but we know exactly what the portrait is about. This tells us something very, very, very important, which is all the pieces of the puzzle are of equal size, but not of equal importance. Some are extremely important. Those are the ones in the center. Some are extremely unimportant, those in the periphery. When we find the Gandhi face in everything, and everything has a Gandhi face, we can learn the highest amount of information in the shortest amount of time. Now that we have the biggest pieces, the most important pieces of the puzzle, what do we have to do next? Combine them. Not many islands, but 1 single continent. Why? Because islands vanish, continents remain. What is an island? How many of you have studied a foreign language in a classroom setting? Okay, most of you, probably at one point or another, the teacher has taught you all the fruits, all the vegetables, all the means of transportation, body parts, colors. No one has ever learned a language that way. Why? Because they are islands that you can't connect. They're isolated. Anything that's isolated, you will lose. Anything that is connected will stay. Anything you can combine, you can remember. Anything you can't connect, you will forget. You have to integrate it into something bigger than itself. All the information you have to be able to connect it. Why? Because this will foster your associative memory. And that will increase assimilation. The greatest thing about building a puzzle this way is that you turn a big wealth of information into very small pieces you can digest. Point number 3, make it bite-sized. Turn all that wealth of information into small pieces you can digest. If you want to have a puzzle, don't focus on the puzzle, focus on the piece. So what we have to do is atomize all that wealth of information. Turn it into very small pieces. When we turn it into small pieces, we focus on the unit. And whenever we focus on the unit, we increase our assimilation on that unit. We will remember it. There's 2 more reasons why it's great to build a puzzle this way if we were to learn a language and turn it into a puzzle. When you go one piece at a time, a word, an expression, what this does is it eliminates the haze. What is the haze? Let's say you go to a history lesson, the teacher's great communicator, but you say, what do I do with all that wealth of information? If you can't turn it into bite-sized pieces, chances are you will forget it. What's the opposite of haze? Concreteness. You have to make it very, very, very specific. The magic about something being concrete is that it's black or white. You can take it home because you can make it tangible. When you can turn all that information into small pieces, there's something magical about that as well, which is you can quantify that information. Very, very important. You can count it. So I say, turn your goal into a ladder and each achievement into a step. Anything you can quantify, you can grasp. And a high number of mini achievements will produce a high number of mini celebrations. When you turn your goal into a ladder, that's going to tell you 2 pieces of information that are very, very useful. One is how many steps you've climbed and how many you have left to climb. What does that do for you? It increases the value of a step. It tells you the value of a step. When you take the next step, you see the point because you're getting closer to your ultimate goal. Because you see the point, your motivation goes up. If you come from that analogy from the history lesson, you come home and you say, I loved my history lesson today. And I ask you, tell me 3 things that you have learned from that history lesson. If you can tell me 3 things, you've learned something. If you can't tell me 3 things, chances are you probably haven't learned much. When you can quantify it and you can make it tangible, what's the next step? You can play with it. You can use it. That's exactly what we should do with every skill. You don't learn by being the sculptor. You learn by being the sculptor. We don't learn from listening. We learn by doing. Learning, it's like an egg. While it's passive, it's only incubating. Once the passive learning is turned to active, that's when the hatching actually occurs and you have the chick. Nobody has ever learned how to swim without jumping into a swimming pool. Are we all in agreement with that? If you can't learn how to swim by listening to a teacher for 12 years, you can't learn a language or any other practical skill the same way. You learn how to swim by swimming. You learn a language by speaking it from day 1. I'll tell you a very telling point. It's very interesting that in a classroom setting, the person that speaks the most is the one that needs it the least, and that is the teacher. I claim that you have to be the protagonist. You are the one that has to do most of the talking. Point number 6. When you can count it, you can focus on the practical side. Limit the theory. You are a sculptor when you focus on the theory. You are the sculptor when you turn it into practice. Learn only the theory which you can turn into practice. If you can't turn it into practice, don't learn it. How many of you have a driver's license? Okay, so most of you, very good. So if I asked those of you that raised your hand, how many of you could name 20 car parts under the hood of your car? Probably most of you wouldn't be able to do it. And yet you probably drive very well. What is the point behind this? You don't need all the theory in order to be able to turn it into practice. So what does this mean? You have to focus on the practical side. If you ask a mechanic how to drive, is like if you ask a grammarian how to speak. The mechanic is going to want to talk about mechanics. The grammarian is going to want to talk about grammar. But you don't want to be a mechanic. You don't want to be a grammarian. You just want to speak in one case and drive the car in the other case. So what does this mean? We have to look for results. How do we get results? From retention. Success comes not from how much you study, but from how much you actually learn. Success comes from assimilation, retention. What matters is not how much information goes into your brain, but how much information of that which goes in actually stays in. What's the point of filling a bottle from the top when it has a hole in the bottom? That's exactly what happens to the traditional educational system. Most of the information that we put in our brains will dissipate, will vanish, will go away. So I claim that the traditional system was actually not designed to learn the information, but to forget it. You have to find a way to retain the information. Why? Because retention is the synonym of success. The human body already does this. How do we do this? With our stomach. We add some information, and then we process some information. We add some food, we digest some food. Ingestion, digestion. We should do the exact same thing with our brains. You add a bit of information, you process the information before you add new information. You have to focus on the new, we're already doing that, and as well you have to focus on the old information. The traditional system sometimes misses the second part. This is exactly what we should do. When we focus on retention, and we have applied the previous 6 principles, we get to the corollary of this theory, which is quick results. If we apply everything, we can have quick results right away. I claim that we should shrink the time between effort and reward. Everything that you learn can have immediate results in every walk of life. If you're learning physics, do an experiment. If you're playing music and you're taking music lessons, play a song before Saturday night. If you're taking dance lessons, do a step tonight. But you can always find immediate results in everything. Everything I've told you goes into quick results. What does that mean? That the learning curve is in favor of the novice. It's against the expert, but it's in favor of the novice. Because the highest amount of progress will take place during the initial stages. Well, let me tell you the same 8 points. That's the theory. I'm going to tell you the same 8 points applied to language learning. If I were to learn a new language today, I would apply each one of these 8 things, and this is exactly how I would do it. First, I would prioritize. I would find the Gandhi phase. Remember, find the Gandhi phase in everything. I would look for those words and expressions that are most used, most frequently used, and in fact, if you ask me, how will you prioritize? I don't know what's most frequently used. Very easy. Learn only anything that you can apply in the next 8 days. In fact, I would even say learn anything you can apply in the next 8 hours. If you can't use it in the next 8 hours, don't learn it. Point number 2, combine those words and expressions that you have just learned. Make sure that you make lots of sentences with them. Exponential, something very telling. If I told you the least useful part of learning a language are the nouns. If I told you with 100 words that are very, very combinable, you can make 1 million sentences. With 1 million nouns, you cannot make one sentence. Why? Because they can be combined among themselves. Point number 3, turn all the wealth of information into bite-sized pieces. This allows you to focus on the unit, on the smallest possible unit. If you were to listen to an audio file from your foreign language you're learning, I would say make sure that you can understand every single word. Don't go for the global meaning. You can do that when you talk to a real person. Make sure you understand the meaning of each single word and make sure you can reproduce it. If you can do that, you're focusing on the unit, and that allows you to remember and assimilate it. Point number 4, count it. Make a list of everything that you've been learning and count it. It's just like the money you have in the bank. If you know exactly how much money you have to the cent, nobody can steal it from you. You can protect it. You know exactly what to go back to and to expect that to be there. Same thing with the amount of words and sentences that you learn. Point number 5, use it. Find a private teacher that will make sure that you do most of the talking. And point number 6, make sure that you limit the theory. I would trade in a grammar lesson for a bunch of examples. You don't need all the theory in order to speak. All you need is the application of the theory. You just need lots of examples that will give you the notion. Maybe you can't explain the grammar of the theory, but you know the notion. You have it with you. Point number 7, success comes from retention. The most important tip I'm going to give you today, the most important practical tip, if I were to learn a language, I would do this. I would get a list of words, and just do this. Every time you add a new word to the list, mother tongue, source language, target language, I would review 10 of the previous words. That's it. For every new word, review 10 of the previous words. You know the results of that? You will remember everything. 100% retention. And point number 8, quick results. Find a native speaker today and enjoy the effort of what you've done. Maybe you can even flirt with a native from that country, with the guy or the girls. But make sure that you get quick results so that you can see the point. If you do that, you'll be telling your motivation that it is worth it. Your motivation will go up. Okay, well, now would like to do an illustration with music. I'm going to expose myself. I'm going to ask you for a song, and I'm going to try to play it. I'm not a musician, so bear with me. Don't try to catch me. The point is just to illustrate the theory. And I'm going to try to play the song even if I've never played it before. Okay? So just 2 conditions. I can't play anything I've never heard before. And point number 2, I will need you to get a song that the whole auditorium will recognize. So I'm going to throw this little ball somewhere around here. And somebody has a song in mind? Anybody has a song in mind? Okay. You have a song in mind, anything that the whole auditorium would know, and I'll try to play it with the piano, and then I'll illustrate the theory. What's the song? If you don't, do you know a song? Okay, do you know a song? What is it? Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. Okay, how about bring a guitar real quick? Bring a guitar, and I'll try to play one of the songs with the guitar, one with the piano. Less, and nothing else matters, and nothing else matters. Is that more or less right? Okay, and winner takes it all. That's who said winner takes it all? Okay, that's quite difficult. Let's try it real quick. And can you play it for me? Can you sing it for me? Probably not. Okay, well let me try. It's quite hard, huh? The winner takes it all. The standing small beside the victory. That's her destiny. Thank you. Okay. So, so I can actually play 7,000 songs, not because I'm very special, but because I have applied the theory that I have just presented. I have found the Gandhi face of music. You know what that is? I've learned that from those 7,000 songs, they all, except for a few exceptions, boil down to just 6 chords. That is the Gandhi face. That's exactly what I've done for years, to pay attention to the 6 chords, recognize them, and be able to play them. Becoming an expert takes 10,000 hours. Learning the Gandhi face and everything takes 10 gracias.